This is our solar system. We have found out so much about it, yet this solar system has so many secrets deep inside it, yet to be discovered. Our solar system consists of the Sun and the planets that revolve on its own axis and also move around the Sun. Earth is the only planet in our solar system that has life and is inhabited by living organisms of various kinds. This planet Earth is our world, of which we human beings are also a part. We share our world along with other living organisms. We all live in different parts of the world and get used to our surroundings. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in a different part of the world? What would the weather be like? What kind of animals would you see? What are the different kinds of plants that grow there? As we start looking for the answers of these questions, we start learning about the biomes of our planet Earth. Now, let us see what a biome is. The Earth has many different environments. These environments vary in temperature, moisture, light, and many other factors. These factors help in forming a habitat. Each of these habitats has a distinct life form living in it. This complex community of plants and animals in a region and a climate is called a biome. The climate and geography of a region determines what type of a biome can exist in that region. The Earth includes a huge variety of living things, from complex plants and animals to very simple one-celled organisms. But large or small, simple or complex, no organism lives alone. Each depends in some way or the other on various other living and non-living things in its surroundings for its survival. So it is interesting to know that the biome concept embraces the idea of community. A community where vegetation, animal populations and soil interact with each other, as this interaction helps the living organism survive in that particular biome. The world of biome is not only vast, but also interesting. Each one of us should know about the biome because we ourselves are an integral part of the biome. So, let us enter the fascinating world of biome. Biomes occur naturally, but it will be interesting to know that the people can also create controlled biomes. For example, you can integrate several small populations of various living organisms in a small space and then start observing what happens to them, how they react to their new surroundings and adjust to it. So, once again, if we want to summarize what a biome is, we can say that, simply put, a biome is a community of plants and animals living together in a certain kind of climate. As we all living beings form a part of the biome, it is important for us to know what the biome contributes to our survival. The survival and well-being of a biome and its organisms depends on ecological relationships throughout the world. Any changes in part of the world that are far, far away from us not only affect our environment, but also us. Even a small change in the atmosphere anywhere in the world can have an impact on our biome. For example, the eruption of a volcano in Mexico can bring the temperature of the whole world down a few degrees for several years. So let's take this adventurous journey of discovery and through the various biomes of our beautiful planet that we call Mother Earth. Can you imagine a planet where 99% of the living space is ocean? You don't have to. You're living on it. That's right. It's our Earth. So let us begin our adventure of biomes from oceans and beaches. But before we talk about the oceans, the very first question that arises in our mind is, what's the difference between an ocean and a sea? Technically speaking, all the world's oceans and seas are part of one continuous mass of seawater. But the ocean is so big that we humans have divided it up and given it different names. Until the year 2000, there were only 4 recognized oceans. But in the spring of 2000, the International Hydrographic Organization marked out a new ocean called the Southern Ocean. So now, there are 5 main areas in this one big ocean. Seas are usually smaller than oceans and are partially enclosed by land, but otherwise they're exactly the same thing. Now, we all know that oceans are vast, but do we really have the idea how immense the oceans are? Let us see. Imagine that you're an ant and you're standing on Mount Everest. That's the size of one human being compared to the ocean. Everything about the ocean is immense. It has the tallest mountains in the world and the deepest valleys. It covers 72% of the Earth's surface. That's 139 million square miles. That is 139 with 19 zeros after it. And it's not just wide, it's deep. 12,460 feet deep on average. Let us simplify it more. This is the Empire State Building. Now imagine 10 Empire State Buildings stacked on top of each other. That would be the depth of the ocean. This immense size makes the marine biome the biggest biome of planet Earth. That includes 5 main oceans: the Pacific, the Atlantic, the Indian, the Arctic, and the Southern, as well as many smaller gulfs and bays. The ocean is divided up into 3 vertical zones. The top layer is called the euphotic zone. It is that area of the ocean where light can penetrate. The next layer is a dysphotic zone. This area is too deep for much light to reach. As a result of this, the lights here look like a twilight on land. The deepest part of the ocean is called the aphotic zone, or deep sea. The water here is awfully cold. This deep sea zone is completely dark and low in nutritional content. In the deep sea lives 80% of all the habitats on Earth. The deepest point in the ocean, the Mariana Trench, is about 36,200 feet deep. This is much more deeper than Mount Everest is tall. Life underwater is not like a beautiful day at the beach. Most of the ocean is as dark as night. The temperatures are just above freezing point, while in a few places, the temperature is hotter than humans can handle. But that doesn't mean that the ocean is quiet and empty. Yes, oceans are very much alive. Thousands of incredible and bizarre creatures have made it their home. Most scientists think life began in the ocean over 3 billion years ago. Let us now closely look at the 5 oceans and discover what it takes for these amazing animals to survive this underwater world. Let us start with the biggest ocean on this planet Earth. Pacific is the largest ocean of all. It has 48% of the world's seawater. This is larger than all the land on this Earth put together. Wow, that is really large, isn't it? The Pacific is also deeper and becomes deeper closer to shore. The Pacific Ocean is spread across 17,700 kilometers in width, that is 11,000 miles. It includes the Bering Sea, Gulf of Alaska, the Philippine Sea and Sea of Japan. It is bisected by the equator. The part north of the equator is called the North Pacific. The part south of the equator, the South Pacific. The interesting thing is that there are more than 30,000 islands in the Pacific Ocean. Most of these islands are the tips of volcanoes that have risen from the ocean floor. In the warm and clear waters of the Pacific, coral reefs develop around the edges of these islands. As the time goes by, the islands slowly sink, but the corals keep growing upwards towards sunlight. A ring of coral is left at the surface where the island was, forming a coral atoll. The Pacific is famous for them. Now, let us see some of the interesting facts that surround the Pacific Ocean. Mauna Kea is a volcano that rises from the Pacific Ocean floor to form the Big Island of Hawaii. Measured from its base, it is 9.6 kilometers tall, which is taller than Mount Everest. Ferdinand Magellan was a famous 16th century around-the-world explorer. As he traveled the Pacific, he found it peaceful and soothing. So he named the ocean Pacific. The deepest point on the Earth is Challenger, deep in the Mariana Trench. It is 11 kilometers deep. Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic Ocean is the second largest body of water in the world and covers 1/5 of the Earth's surface. If we compare this large ocean with land, then we can say that Atlantic Ocean is about 4 times the size of North America. It includes the Baltic Sea, Caribbean Sea, Gulf of Mexico, and Mediterranean Sea. The Atlantic Ocean sits in an S-shaped basin that runs in a north-south direction, bounded by Europe and Africa on the east and by North and South America on the west. The equator divides the Atlantic into the north and south sections, and this ocean stretches from Arctic to Antarctica. The Atlantic Ocean was named after the Greek god Atlas, who held up the heavens. Let us now look at some of the interesting facts about Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic is getting wider at the rate of about 2.5 centimeters a year. This is about the same rate at which our fingernails grow. When Christopher Columbus made his transatlantic voyage in 1492, the Atlantic was 12 meters narrower, that is, about 40 feet. Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean is the third largest of Earth's ocean. It's bounded on the west by Africa, on the north by Asia, on the east by Australia and the Australasian Islands, and on the south by Antarctica. The Indian Ocean was formed about 125 million years ago when Africa tore free from Antarctica and drifted north. The total area of the Indian Ocean is 73.4 million square kilometers. That's 28.4 million square miles. The ocean narrows towards the north and is divided by the Indian Peninsula into the Bay of Bengal on the east and the Arabian Sea on the west. The Arabian Sea sends 2 arms northward, the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea. The wonders of the Indian Ocean include coral islands, Antarctic breeding grounds, and giant river deltas. The Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama sailed across the Indian Ocean in 1497 after rounding the southern tip of Africa. Ever since, the Indian Ocean has been a trade route for silks, rugs, tea, and spices. The Indian Ocean is very beautiful and popular for tourists. However, the islands of the Indian Ocean are some of the poorest areas in the world. Recently, regulations have been introduced to protect the ecosystem and with it, the fishing stocks. Southern Ocean. The Southern Ocean extends from the coast of Antarctica north to 60 degrees south latitude. The Southern Ocean is now the 4th largest of the world's 5 oceans, after the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Indian Ocean. but larger than the Arctic Ocean. It includes the Amundsen Sea, the Bellhausen Sea, and the Ross Sea. Arctic Ocean, situated at the top of the world, is the world's smallest ocean, called the Arctic Ocean. Arctic Ocean is north of the Arctic Circle and surrounding the North Pole. It includes Baffin Bay, the Hudson Bay, and Greenland Sea. Ice formed by the freezing of seawater covers almost the entire Arctic Ocean in winter. 3 forms of ice are found in the Arctic Ocean: land ice, river ice, and sea ice. Land ice enters the ocean in the form of icebergs. As the fresh water freezes, it is transported into the oceans by the rivers. Sea ice is formed by the freezing of seawater. It is the most extensive form of ice in the Arctic Ocean. Let us now see some of the interesting facts about the Arctic Ocean. Even during summer, half of the Arctic Ocean is covered in sea ice. Most of the ice is 3 meters thick, that is, 10 feet thick. Every year at the North Pole, 6 months of darkness is followed by 6 months of light. In places where the Arctic Ocean is free of ice cover, winter storms cause thorough mixing of shallow waters. The mixing stirs up nutrients, which leads to blooms of phytoplankton growth from spring through to autumn. Water is the common link among all the biomes. Without water, most life forms would be unable to sustain themselves, and the Earth would be a barren, desert-like place. The ocean is home to the smallest plankton and the largest creature on Earth, the blue whale. Come, let us explore the open seas. As we all human beings refresh ourselves every now and then, so does the oceans. Let us see how the oceans refreshes itself. Most of the nutrients of the open sea are in the bottom of the ocean. This is because nutrients are really plant and animals that die and sink. In the open seas, water in the sunlit zone receives lots of sun and has a higher temperature than the water below. Under normal conditions, the process of upwelling brings cooler water from down below towards the top. Cold seawater is rich in nutrients. The supply of nutrient-rich cold water to the sunlit zone is critical in maintaining healthy oceans. Most marine life lives in the sunlit zone, and these creatures need a steady supply of food and nutrients. Upwelling brings nutrients to where they are needed most, at the top of the ocean where most animals live, and thus the ocean gets refreshed. Climate does not have much effect on the marine biome, but the marine biome largely affects our terrestrial climate. Compared to land, oceans warm up and cool down very slowly. As a result, they act as an enormous heat store, able to absorb vast amounts of energy from the sun in warm weather and then release the heat slowly during cold weather. Thus, it affects coastal temperatures. The oceans also provide rain for crops through evaporation and wind to help circulate air. If one day you find the sky sunny and another day you find it cloudy, then it is all because of the influence of the oceans on the weather. So the oceans decide whether it is going to be sunny or a cloudy day. The oceans therefore have a huge influence on the Earth's climate. Let us once again look closely at the layers or the zones of the ocean based on their depths. The top zone is a sunlit zone. In the sunlit zone, the water is very warm because that is where the sun hits. Most of the plants and animals live in the sunlit zone. Here we will find most of the sharks, although there are some sharks that live near the ocean floor also. Beneath the sunlit zone, down to 1,000 meters, or 600 to 3,300 feet, lies the twilight zone. The creatures of the twilight zone are often red or black. The twilight zone temperature can be as low as 41 degrees Fahrenheit. This is because there is less light there than in the sunlit zone. Beyond 1,000 meters, that's 3,300 feet deep, is the dark zone, a world of total blackness, except for light made by the animals themselves. In the dark zone, the temperature is about 35 degrees Fahrenheit. There is not much food in this zone. There is another zone below the dark zone, the abyssal zone. In this layer, the mud is made from the skeletons of other small sea animals. The mud can be more than a mile thick. And last come the trenches that are over 19,800 feet deep. The water here is freezing cold, and only animals that are adapted to the freezing water can survive in this layer. Temperature is one of the major factors that affects where sea creatures live. Birds and mammals are warm-blooded. They keep their bodies at a constant warm temperature, no matter whether the surroundings are warm or cool. Warm-blooded animals such as whales can travel between warm and cold areas and still survive. The grey whale, for instance, spends summers in the chilly waters of the Arctic, but swims to much warmer waters of Baja California in winter. Most sea animals, however, are cold-blooded, which means their body temperature is greatly affected by their surroundings. Such species are less flexible about where they can live. For example, tropical fish would die in cold water, and cold water fish cannot survive in tropical water. We all have seen plants on land, but out at sea we can't see any plants at all. This makes us wonder, aren't there any plants in the sea? Of course there are there, but they're microscopic. Most ocean plants are not true plants at all. They are single-celled marine algae. Algae are simple plant-like organisms that lack proper stems, leaves or roots. But these plants are like the true plants on land. They trap sunlight and use it to make food for themselves. Now, let's see how many kinds of plants are there in the oceans. Over 1 million species of plants and animals have been discovered in the oceans, and scientists say there may be as many as 9 million species we haven't found yet. One reason the ocean is very important is because of all the algae. Do you know, if it weren't for marine algae, we would not be able to breathe? Yes, it is a fact. Through photosynthesis, marine plants and algae provide much of the world's oxygen supply and take in huge amounts of carbon dioxide. This absorption of carbon dioxide may be a useful tool in reducing the harshness of climate change. One type of marine algae is kelp. Kelp is important because it provides shelter and food for a lot of sea creatures. Kelp is also used by humans for many products, including toothpaste and ice cream. Kelp also serves as a buffer by absorbing energy from waves before the waves hit the shoreline, protecting many of the sandy beaches. Look at these. What are these? Plants or animals? These are plankton. Plankton are tiny open water plants, animals or bacteria. Plankton generally have limited or no swimming ability and are transported through the water by currents and tides. Plankton can be divided into 3 major size classes. Phytoplankton. Plankton, including algae that can trap sunlight and use it to make food, are called phytoplankton. They're tiny plants that serve as food to many of the ocean's creatures, from the smallest of fish to the largest of whales. Some scientists estimate that phytoplankton provide the Earth with almost half of its oxygen. Marine plants live in the euphotic zone, or the topmost layer of the ocean, because they need energy from the sun for photosynthesis. Zooplankton. These are animal-like plankton that survive by eating phytoplankton. These zooplankton in turn serve as food for large animals such as fish and squid. The smallest phytoplanktons are incredibly tiny. They're so tiny that hundreds would fit on a pinhead. Many of these phytoplankton are not algae, but a kind of bacteria. These are macrozooplankton. They're larger fish eggs and larvae. Cocolithophora is a small but beautiful phytoplankton. They look like a tiny ball covered in round, chalky plates. After they die, the shells fall to the seafloor where they build up and gradually turn into chalk or limestone. Dinoflagellates are also phytoplankton. They have thinner skeletons shaped like leaves or cones, and they produce their own light when the water is disturbed. In some parts of the world, when waves break or when a person swims, the sea surfaces sparkle at night with green light of dinoflagellates. Look at this. Is the water here polluted? Take a closer look. This is not a river of pollution, but a red tide, a mass of tiny dinoflagellates. Under certain conditions, these tiny algae multiply so quickly that they stain the sea and can poison creatures that feed on them. Sometimes phytoplankton grows so quickly and in such huge numbers that they color the water. As they die and become trapped on the surface, they form a scum. This is called a red tide. Despite the name, it can be any color from yellow to blue. Red tides are capable of removing so much oxygen from the water that sea animals suffocate, and some red tides are poisonous. Shellfish, such as clams and oysters, can feed on the poisonous phytoplankton unharmed, but fish or other animals that eat the shellfish may die. Worldwide, red tides caused by a phytoplankton called Alexandrium kill nearly 200 people every year this way. We can often find seaweeds attached to rocks in cool, shallow water. There are more than 6,000 types of seaweeds. There are 3 different types: red, green and brown. The biggest seaweeds are of the brown type and are called giant kelps. They're like underwater trees, towering up from the seafloor to the surface with fronds as long as 100 meters or 330 feet. The largest giant kelp can grow 30 centimeters or 12 inches a day. The smallest seaweeds, such as the bright green sea lettuce, are paper thin. Large seaweeds have to face a tough time for their survival. Growing in a shallow water, they have to resist the battering of waves and strong currents. They have to stay anchored to stop being swept out to sea. And at the same time, they have to reach toward the surface to trap sunlight. These seaweeds are very useful for us human beings. Raw, cooked or dried, these seaweeds can make a delicious food. They're also rich in vitamins and minerals. Not only this, seaweeds contain chemicals called alganates that are used in the food, medical and cosmetics industries. Alganates form thickeners, binders and stabilizers for all sorts of items like drug capsules, lipsticks, shampoos, toothpaste, low-fat mayonnaise. Sea grasses are the only flowering plants that live underwater in the sea. They're true grasses with proper stems, roots, leaves and flowers. Where they grow well, they form large meadows that support many animals. The most amazing features of tropical oceans are its beautiful and fragile coral reefs. Let us see and try to find out what is a coral reef. A reef is a coral community consisting of several thousand organisms living together. Although it looks like a sleeping and inactive underwater bush, the reef is very much alive. Reefs grow very slowly over time. You'd be amazed to know that an inch of coral reef takes nearly 100 years to grow. Corals are small inch-long ocean animals. Young corals attach themselves to the limestone skeletons of dead corals. Over thousands and millions of years, layers of skeletons build up, and grow into reefs. Reefs are home to a quarter of all ocean species, called the rainforests of the sea. Coral reefs are endangered. The largest coral reef system is a Great Barrier Reef of Australia. It is 2,000 kilometers long and clearly visible from space. It is made up of more than 2,500 separate reefs. Many animals live near corals. Corals provide food through the food chain they support. Corals also provide shelter from predators and from ocean waves and currents. Here is a single sea rod coral colony growing from a sand and coral bottom near Rainbow Reef. This single colony was only 3 feet tall, but there are 5 different kinds of fish using this coral as a shelter. These fishes form a mixed species school, like a school of fish containing fish of the same species. This long, slender fish is a trumpet fish. Trumpet fish are familiar hunters of the tropical coral reef. Trumpet fish are lurk and lunge hunters. They hunt by hoping a small fish won't notice and will swim close enough that the trumpet fish can catch it with a quick lunge. Trumpet fish can change colors and often pretend to be branches of coral. An amazing fact about here is that almost everything you see is an animal. The tiny yellowfish with purple heads are called fairy basslets. Maybe this trumpet fish is trying to catch them. The brown branches that look like a plant are actually a coral called a deep water sea fan, made by a colony of thousands of tiny coral animals called polyps. The polyp is a basic body form of a coral animal. It is essentially a round animal with a mouth in the middle and a ring of tentacles around the mouth. These are white and yellow polyps. These are tiny animals called great star corals. Each animal is one orange tube about ½ inch big and about as tall as they are wide. Each animal reaches out into the water with a ring of short, white tentacles, hoping to catch food as it floats or swims by. In the middle of some of the rings of tentacles, we can see a slit that is the animal's mouth. The tentacles are lined with tiny white dots that are stinging cells called nematocysts. As we have learned, each animal is called a polyp. Each polyp will reach out into the water and seize its prey with its tentacles. The stinging nematocysts will kill or paralyze the prey, and then the polyp will drag its prey into its mouth. These coral polyps only come out at night. By day, they hide down in holes in their skeletons. In this picture, each animal is one ring, sort of like a donut cut in half. Each individual animal, called a polyp, lives in the center of the ring. These coral polyps only come out at night. By day, they hide down in holes of their skeletons. These are polyps of a purple seaweed coral. The seaweed coral is a colony of hundreds of individual animals. Each animal is called a polyp. Each polyp is white and has 8 tentacles. Each polyp is about 1/4 of an inch tall. Here, the individual polyps can be seen in good detail. The 8 tentacles surround the mouth of the polyp. The mouth appears as a bright white spot in between the tentacles. Each tentacle is covered by short hair-like projections. Notice that the foot of the polyp is on a raised base on the branch of the colony. The branch is built by the polyps. This is an amazing scene. The tentacles of the seaweed coral catching tiny sea creatures at night. The small swimming creatures may be young fish, barely 1/8 of an inch long. The tentacles curl around the prey and pull the prey into the polyp's mouth. These are but few of the living creatures that have made the oceans. their home. The ocean can also support very large life forms. The blue whale is the biggest animal on Earth. It can be over 100 feet long. Blue whales are so large that a small person can crawl through their main arteries and 20 people can stand on their tongue. Animals in the deep sea also live in a tough environment. One creature, the anglerfish, deals with the darkness by attracting its prey with a lure lit up by light-producing bacteria. When the prey is drawn to the lure, the anglerfish captures it with its big mouth for a tasty meal. The oceans contain a vast amount of living space. It's amazing. There is 6,000 times more living space in the oceans than on land. Animals live at all depths in the ocean, from the surface to the seafloor, 10 kilometers or 6 miles down. They range in size from the microscopic to the largest animal that has ever lived on the earth, the blue whale. The true king of the ocean is fish. More than half of all living species with backbones are fish. Fish are amazingly successful. They come in all shapes and sizes, from gobies about 1 centimeter long to whale sharks reaching 18 meters, as big as a whale. Zooplankton. Other than fish, there are many more animals living down in the mysterious world of oceans. Animals that live floating near the ocean surface among the plankton are called zooplankton. Many of these animals are microscopic, but the largest, such as the biggest jellyfish, can be more than 1 meter wide, with tentacles 9 meters long. There are 2 animals in ocean called salps and larvaceans who pump seawater through their bodies, catching the phytoplankton in gel-like nets. These are the marine vacuum cleaners, known as salps. They are planktonic filter feeders, each one a tireless vacuum continuously clearing phytoplankton cells from the sea by filtering water through mucus nets as it swims. They can occur as individuals or in colonies that form long connected chains. The more we know about the oceans, the more mysterious it appears. Have you ever wondered what is the secret of life in the deep seabeds? Until now, it was unclear how anything could live down there with no sunlight in complete darkness. Because when there is no sunlight, there cannot be photosynthesis. And when there is no photosynthesis, there are no plants. When there are no plants, there will not be food for animals that live deep under. So how do these animals survive the deep sea? It appears that Mother Nature has got survival solutions for all its living organisms, wherever they are on this planet Earth. As for the survival of these deep sea animals, it turns out we can thank tadpole-like creatures called giant larvaceans for secreting huge balls of mucus. The larvaceans live inside these mucus balls until they get too blocked up. At this point, the larvaceans discard their old homes and make new ones. The old dirty mucus balls sink like bombs and provide food for deep sea animals. Ocean animals have less need for a skeleton than do land animals because water supports their bodies. Look at this animal. This is called the octopus. Octopuses have no bones whatsoever, allowing them to form their flexible bodies into endless different shapes and squeeze through tiny crevices. They use their suckered tentacles to grasp, suffocate and overpower their prey. Pufferfish. A pufferfish scares away its enemies by gulping down water and inflating itself to appear much larger. The porcupine fish. A close relative of the pufferfish has many prickly spines sticking out of its body. This can scare its enemies away. If it is caught by another fish, it can still enlarge itself in the fish's mouth, but both fish will die. Lionfish. Lionfish use venom to defend themselves. If an attacker presses against one of the lionfish's spines, the spine injects a poison so strong that it can kill a person. Goby are about 4 to 10 inches long. Gobies belong to a family of fish with a worldwide distribution in both salt and fresh water. Whale. Whales are large mammals that live its entire life in the water. Like other mammals, whales have large, highly developed brains and nurse their young with milk. Whales are enormous in size compared to other mammals. The blue whale is probably the largest animal that has ever lived, reaching a length of nearly 30 meters or 100 feet and weighing 180 metric tons. The blue whale makes the loudest sound, over 150 decibels of any animal, and can be heard over thousands of kilometers across the entire ocean. Certain other whales, especially the dolphins, emit clicking sounds that bounce off objects. The returning echo is used as a sonar image of their underwater surroundings. They share this ability called echolocation with bats, shrews, and a few kinds of animals. Sperm whales and killer whales. Sperm whales and killer whales are wanderers without specific migratory routes. An individual sperm whale might, in its lifetime, swim around the world. Let us find out about deep-sea fishes. Anglerfish. The anglerfish, or Melanocetus johnsoni, uses its bioluminescent capability in its hunt for food. The fish dangles an illuminated pod to lure prey close enough to be snatched. Viperfish. The viperfish is one of the fiercest predators or killers of the deep sea. Its large mouth and sharp fang-like teeth can easily recognize this fish. These fangs are so large, in fact, that they do not fit inside its mouth. Instead, they curve back very close to the fish's eyes. The viper is thought to use these sharp teeth to pierce its victims by swimming at them at high speeds. This fearsome-looking creature has a long dorsal spine that is tipped with photophore, a light-producing organ. The viperfish uses this light organ to attract its prey. By flashing it on and off, it can be used as a fishing lure to attract smaller fish. Just like on land, life in the ocean too depends on energy. No animal can move or grow without energy. Most ocean animals get their energy by eating plants or other animals. The connection between organisms based on the transfer of energy is called a food chain or a food web. Most food webs start with the conversion of sunlight into food through the process of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is an important process that occurs at the surface of the ocean. But deep within the ocean, food chains are based on the conversion of chemical energy into food. This process is called chemosynthesis. Water itself is a valuable commodity. Oceans cover nearly 75% of the Earth's surface. However, because ocean water is salty, most animals and plants, including human beings living on land, cannot drink it. But in places where there is little fresh water, desalination facilities have been developed to make the seawater worth drinking. But this is nothing compared to what is in store deep under the oceans. And so many living organisms are surviving using the vast resources of the ocean, how can we human beings be left behind? We have also developed various ways of exploiting the vastness of the oceans. Thousands and thousands of years ago, our ancestors used the oceans only as a source of food. Slowly, they started moving deeper into the sea and built huge ships that could survive in the ocean for many days. And thus we human beings developed ourselves as skillful sailors and started taking risks of going on great exploration through the sea routes. The sailors made some daring voyages, and the 15th century came to be known as the Age of Exploration. More and more sailors started going out into the open sea to discover new land. In 1498, Vasco da Gama sailed from Portugal to India. This journey of his opened up sea trade between Europe and Asia. Today, more than 90% of goods are transported across the world through cargo ships. If we look around, we can be sure that most of the things that we use today must have reached us through the sea route from different parts of the world. Thanks to the explorers today, we can travel to any part of the world through sea. So through the ages, man has been able to conquer the vastness of the sea. But man's curiosity never ends, and today we human beings are trying to discover and solve the mysteries of the world that live under the sea, going way down to the bottom of the ocean. The new inventions through the ages have revolutionized the deep sea exploration, and today we human beings are looking ahead to exploit the untapped wealth hidden under the sea. It is fascinating to know that as a land is full of natural resources, the oceans too have abundant resources lying in its depth. The minerals at the bottom of the sea are difficult and expensive to collect, but the more accessible resources like fish have been massively overexploited in various parts of the world. Seafood is a major source of protein and is very healthy to eat. Some fishes are rich in certain fats that help lower the levels of our blood cholesterol. Lower cholesterol levels in human body means a reduced risk of heart disease and stroke. Many countries can't afford to grow chicken and meat, so they rely on fish for their protein needs. Another valuable commodity from the sea is salt. As we human beings started farming and eating lots of cereals and vegetables, salt has become a very essential part of our diet. We could not drink the seawater because it is salty, but people learned to separate salt from the seawater. We human beings have even learned to make good use of the sands of the oceans. Sands are used by the house and road builders to make concrete and for many other purposes. Oil and gas supplies are one of the most important things that we get from the reserves under the seafloor. Oil and gas drilled from below the sea provide more than 40% of the world's supply of these fuels. As supplies from land get used up, man will start moving deeper waters, exploring oil and gas that has become a major source of energy in today's world. Today, tourism and leisure have also become one of the most important ways of using the oceans, whether it is surfing, diving, sailing or fishing. These leisure and fun-filled activities have all become multi-million rupees industries. It is really surprising to know that there is enough gold dissolved in the oceans to provide everyone in the world with a lump weighing about 4 kilograms. But let us be warned, overexploitation of these resources of the oceans have its negative impacts too. Sooner or later, it can have dire consequences on the survival of human race on land. The world has already started getting the glimpses of the things to come. Recent overuse of the ocean by man has led to the decline in population of some commercially caught fishing. Overfishing is a real problem that does not have an easy solution. According to an estimate, 90% of the world's fisheries are overfished, and if we don't do anything about it, a coming generation will have to face dire consequences in future. Another important thing is, when we think of the marine biome, health issues don't usually come to mind. But there are many problems facing the fish and animals of our ocean. The major health-related issues facing the marine biome are oil spills and water pollution. Pollution from land often ends up in the sea. Some pollutants are dumped there, others run into the sea through rivers, and air pollutants fall into sea with rain. Oil pollution is most obvious when a tanker spills its cargo into the sea. Oil pollution is happening all the time at a low but harmful level. The amount of oil running into the sea from land is nearly 10 times that from major tanker spills. The other problem is becoming more and more evident. With evolution comes higher technology, but also more pollution. Many companies, especially the ones that are near rivers and lakes, use the surrounding water as dumps. They dump tons of oils, acids and scraps into the world's water every year, trying to save money. There is a lot of trash in the ocean by everyday people who are too lazy to find a trash can. Some forms of pollution are particularly dangerous because they build up in the bodies of marine animals. This happens especially with dissolved heavy metals and artificial chemicals that are organic or carbon-based and contain chlorine. These organic chemicals might be responsible for the mysterious mass deaths that sometimes affect seals, sea lions and dolphins. Now, people across the world have started rising to the problems. There are many different groups that are trying to clean up the waters and beaches. One main group is Greenpeace. They are a group that is trying to save the endangered animals of the ocean. With awareness being created, many companies are starting to change the way they get rid of their waste by using more earth-friendly products and recycling more. Some companies are finding ways to cut waste almost completely. Even though big companies are trying, they still are giving off pollution, if not into the water, then into the air. This gives rise to $1 billion question. Which is worse, corrupting one biome or corrupting all the biomes? Nobody is yet ready to answer this question. Let us now look at the reasons that challenge the existence of life on the land. The first one is rising seas. Earth's climate goes through cycles over thousands of years. Sometimes factors combine to make the global climate cooler. When this happens, snow falls instead of rain and stays on the land instead of running into the sea. Ice builds up at the poles and water in the oceans shrinks slightly as it gets cooler. As a result, sea levels fall. Scientists describe such times as ice ages. At other times, the global climate warms. When this happens, seawater expands, polar ice melts and sea levels rise. We're at present in the middle of these warm periods called an interglacial. Let us see what will happen with the rise in temperature. The seawater will expand slightly. More polar ice will melt. This will result in the rise of sea levels. Many smaller tropical islands such as Maldives in the Indian Ocean lie only 3 to 6 feet above sea level. Such islands could even disappear underwater within the next few centuries. Large areas of Bangladesh bordering the Bay of Bengal are less than 6 feet above sea level. Here, floods and storm waves already endanger many millions of people. Global warming and pollution are not the only threats facing the oceans. Another is habitat loss. The destruction of fragile marine habitats such as seagrass meadows, coral reefs and kelp forests. The worst habitat destruction occurs near shores or in the shallow water, and the damage is often hidden from view. Coral reefs are very sensitive to human activities. Pollution and muddy water running into the sea from towns can kill coral. Tourists and fishers can damage coral by touching it, by standing on it, or by dragging anchors or cables across it. Many reefs are overfished. Sometimes traders stun exotic fish with cyanide to gather them for the aquarium trade. The cyanide kills the coral. In recent years, coral reefs have suffered from a mysterious condition called bleaching. The coral organisms lose the microscopic algae that live inside them, which make the coral turn stark white, as though bleached. Death often follows. Scientists are not sure what causes coral bleaching, but many suspect a rise in sea temperature caused by global warming is to blame. The oceans contain many resources that could prove useful in the future. One is energy. The heat stored in the oceans and the constant movement of seawater are vast resources of energy that have been barely trapped. The technology to harness tidal power already exists, and electricity is being generated using it. Each tide produces enough electricity for tens of thousands of homes. Ocean energy sources causes less pollution than power stations driven by fossil fuels, but there are drawbacks. Scattered over large areas of the deep ocean floor are potato-sized lumps of valuable metals such as cobalt, manganese, copper and nickel. These lumps form over millions of years as dissolved metals slowly crystallize out of seawater. The lumps are worth trillions and trillions of rupees, but they're expensive to harvest because they lie at least 4 kilometers underwater. Maybe one day when the demand for these metals is great enough and mining technology is more advanced, the lumps may be scooped from the seafloor. The oceans are not just a pleasant place to visit, they're vital for the health of our planet. They provide an indispensable part of our food supply, but more than this, the circulating oceans and the organisms within them create our weather and our climate. We have to preserve our oceans for us and our generations to enjoy its benefits for a long, long time to come. The future of these vast oceans lies in our small hands. When we rise to the occasion, this is again a question that requires immediate attention. It is very important that we all human beings, each one of us as an individual, contribute to save the oceans. We don't have to do anything extraordinary. There are many simple things that we all can do to help protect the ocean. Recycling our waste products and making sure that chemicals don't go down our household drains is an easy and best way to start contributing. Buy seafood that is harvested. This will assure that more sea creatures don't get hurt by fishing. Lastly, let us learn more and more about the ocean. If we have more knowledge about the oceans, we will be able to create more awareness amongst people and help save these vast resources. The future of our oceans lies in our hands. Let us join hands and pledge to do every small possible thing to save these vast resources before it becomes a threat to the very survival of us human beings, so that our beautiful planet Earth remains beautiful forever.
Pete! Hey, Pete! Are you home? Pete! Pete! Hello, Sandy. What are you doing? Come on, let's play. Not now, Sandy. I'm studying. I'll play only